Louisville's hot streak in recruiting continues as the top uncommitted prospect in the 2024 class has committed to the Cardinals program. We discuss the newest member of the men's basketball team on today's episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Stay tuned.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. For those who don't know who I am, this is my third athletic season covering the Locked On Louisville podcast, founded back in 2021. I also serve as a credential media member for Cardinal Sports Zone, and I do some PA announcing work for the university in various sports. I want to take this time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the Locked On Louisville podcast, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. The hot streak in recruiting continues for the Louisville Cardinals. Pat Kelsey picking up a commitment from Khani Rooths, who was on an official visit to Louisville last weekend. The newest member to the Cardinals program will play an immediate role next season. We'll discuss what that role looks like, and also talking about why it's significant for multiple reasons that Louisville got this commitment. And then to conclude the show, we're answering the main question. Is Noah Waterman still an option for the Cardinals? He is, and it can all work out on the court. We'll dive into that discussion at the conclusion of the show. But have a happy birthday, Pat Kelsey. What an absolute phenomenal way to spend your birthday, then getting another commitment for next year's team. This time, your very first high school commitment as the head coach of the Louisville Cardinals. Khani Rooths from IMG Academy was the top-ranked uncommitted prospect on the board in the 2024 recruiting class. He is ranked anywhere inside of the top 40, some places the top 30 on the 24/7 Sports Composite, the 33rd best player in the country, sixth best player in this, sixth best power forward in the nation, and eighth best player in the state of Florida. Played at IMG Academy, originally from the DC area, if I'm not mistaken. So sort of that DMV area tie that Louisville staff is seemingly looking to continue to go after. And it makes sense that Louisville goes out and targets a high-profile power forward with the needs that Louisville has in the front court. Yes, they just got a commitment from Cason Pryor, but still some work that needed to be done. We go back to the discussion we had about the 4 scholarships available at the beginning of the week. I said the number one need you had was a difference maker in the front court. And on Tuesday, you got that with Cason Pryor committing. And then with 3 available scholarships, I mentioned a complimentary piece alongside Pryor, a rotational player in the front court / backup guard, and then best player available. You filled that second need with the addition of Khani Rooths. I think he's going to be relied upon to play a role next season. But what does that role look like? To truly answer that question, we have to discuss what type of a player you are getting here. Khani Rooths, 6'8", 205 pounds. I've seen Cardinal fans classify him as a possible guard option. I've seen Cardinal fans classify him as a small ball 5, and mainly in that 3-4 area as well. He's not a guard. He's not a small ball 5, even though he's 6'8", and I think he has a 7'1" wingspan. He's not a small ball 5. He needs to add a little bit more weight in the strength and conditioning program when he gets to Louisville. He's going to slide into that 3-4 role. It really depends on how you envision the roles for guys like Abubakar Traore and Javon Hadley, but I imagine he's going to play somewhere in the front court. Eric Bossy did a great job of describing his game back in November. He projects him as a power 4 starter. This is what Bossy had to say. A junior on a loaded IMG team, Ruuts was more likely to blend in, switched 1 through 4 on defense, helped out on the glass, able to grab a rebound and lead the team on the break. He looks to score, but he was more of a secondary scorer at times, had to be urged to be more aggressive on that end. In the AAU circuit for Adidas last year, he expanded his game, had the ball in his hands more, got to the rim. Not a high flyer, but he's got plenty of bounce, and more importantly, a true mover with lateral quickness and the ability to be athletic in tight spaces. Led his team in points and rebounds over the summer, and mainly will be a driver at his size. Pretty quick first step. Addition to improving shot selection, Ruuts also has room to grow as a passer, so on and so forth. Just a little bit of paraphrasing there. But the the former Michigan commitment, decommitted, announced the visit to Louisville, made that visit, took a couple days to get that pledge, but Louisville got the pledge from the top-ranked player in the class that was not committed at the time. Ruuts is going to be a slasher right away that plays a specific role, a high-energy player off the bench that utilizes that explosiveness with that quick first step to get to the basket, and also have a ton of emphasis on rebounding the basketball. The potential is there in terms of the offensive repertoire. Like, the shooting motion doesn't look bad. Mechanically, it looks sound. There's no flaws in the motion. I don't really think there's much refining needing to be done. It's more so just being comfortable in getting the reps in and improving as a perimeter shooter, which he took a step forward between his junior and senior season. And the hope is that he does that between his senior season and his freshman year in college. And then not to mention what Bossy said as a passer. He's a willing passer, but at times tries to do a little bit too much. That might have been an indication on the AAU level of having to be the guy. And when you have the ball in your hands all the time, you're going to have some turnovers. So if you're not a true point guard, having to be relied upon to be the guy in the front court, to be the main scorer, you're going to have some turnovers. But if he can improve that passing, continue to develop the offensive skill set, the sky is the limit here. And I like this addition. I think he could be a future pro, future starter for Louisville. It's not going to be this year. And the underlying benefit to that is the luxury of not having to rely upon Ruuts to be great right away. You can allow him to find his footing, to develop his game, and focus on playing his role. Because the truth of the matter is, with freshmen at the University of Louisville, history is really not on your side in terms of being like a huge contributor. I know Francisco Garcia was sort of the exception. He averaged in double digits. Shane Bohannon basically averaged 10 and 8 on that 2012 Final Four team. But other than that, maybe it's an indication of a lack of adding top tier recruits, which could be the case. Ruuts, by 24/7 sports standards, is overall a top 10 rated commitment in program history, which is actually kind of wild to think about. Like, think about that. Of all the players that Louisville's gotten over the years since recruiting services have been introduced, Ruuts is like number 8. He's right in front of Shane Bohannon. He's got like a 98 rating. So it's pretty neat. And I would caution you to look at this addition as very significant, and for multiple different reasons that we're going to sort of get to in the next segment. But also understand that he's probably not going to come in right away and average double-digit scoring, which we are pretty used to freshmen not doing that. But with how recent things are and people having optimism, nothing wrong with being optimistic. Just understand that he's probably going to be in that second rotation, a 3 or 4 off the bench, depending on who is on the court around him, playing a role of rebounding the basketball and being a slasher. The ability to switch 1 through 4, defensive versatility, and the ability to operate in transition will help him see the floor immediately. It's something that I think Pat Kelsey prides his teams on. Very good defense. Well, will be priding his teams on good defense and transition basketball on offense. So exactly what you're looking for. And I'm really excited to see what Ruuts can bring to the table. I'm glad that Pat Kelsey got his first high school commitment as the head coach of the Cardinals. There's multiple different reasons why this addition is significant for the Cardinals on and off the court. And I'm going to explain exactly what I mean here momentarily after I tell you about our friends over at eBay Motors. Allow me to find the, there we go. Couldn't find the YouTube graphic soon enough. My apologies. But nonetheless, eBay Motors has a great opportunity ahead of you. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. I'm into speed. Some people are into power, others into style. Regardless, eBay Motors has you covered. It has over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You always find exactly what you're looking for, and with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, where you get your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home that huge win, or huge wins, plural. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Cardinal fans, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Right before the break, I introduced the notion that this addition of Khani Rooths to the Louisville Cardinals is significant for multiple reasons. Well, on the court, it gives you a rotational piece in the front court, something that Louisville has needed. You added Case and Pryor, but clear that multiple additions were required, and the Cardinals have added as many recruits or additions to the team in as many days. So by that standard, it's significant because you add a talented player. There are two other reasons why I think this is significant for the Cardinals. Number one, as I mentioned, it's his first high school commitment leading the Cardinals program. It's the top uncommitted player in the high school ranks still available. Because high school recruiting will be an emphasis moving forward, because you had to replace all 13 players you got hired on after the season in March. Not only did you not have a ton of time to build the relationships with the remaining uncommitted players, but there were only so many uncommitted players to begin with. So by necessity, you had to turn to the portal. Now, we've seen the Cardinals offer multiple players since March, highly ranked players, I might add, in the 2025 class. It's going to be a fairly sizable class. You have a chance at bringing some players back from this year's team. You're going to rely on the portal again, and there will be an emphasis on the high school recruiting class. One thing we are wanting to know is, can Pat Kelsey recruit the high school ranks well? Well, he just got a top 40, maybe top 30, depending on what recruiting services you utilize, commit to join the team. The trend of it reminds me sort of like when Chris Mack joined. Now, maybe apples to oranges here. Josh Nickelberry was that first commitment that Chris Mack got, and it showed that he could go get a top 120 player. And then that sparked a run of him picking up multiple commitments. Aiden Nagahan, David Johnson, Quinn Slazinski. The list goes on, right? That first commitment is so important because it introduces the possibility of making something become a trend. And it's showing that, hey, look, top-ranked players are joining Pat Kelsey's team, because as good as a coach we believe him to be, he still has to prove himself in recruiting and on the court. And he's done that in the portal, but he's had to now show that in the high school recruiting ranks. And he now has started the journey of doing that, right? Adding a top 30, 40 player, it's big time news. It is a significant reason to like this move for the Cardinals. So recruits, pay attention to what other recruits are doing. And you're thinking, oh, look, a top 40 guys going to Louisville? Okay, maybe they are legit. Maybe Pat Kelsey is legit. The other reason, I think this is probably the more significant of the two, is that possible roster continuity between next season or this season and next. Louisville lost all 13 players after Kenny Payne was let go. Fairly expected, maybe not all 13, but a good amount. What you don't want to have to do year in, year out is have to replace every single player. That's why we've said that even though Ali Khalifa and Kobe Rogers aren't going to play next season, having them for the year following, it's something that you might not appreciate right then, but you're going to appreciate when that time comes. Corin Johnson will have a year of eligibility remaining. It is TBD whether he will use it after this season. James Scott would be a college junior. I would expect him to be back. But now you bring in Khani Rooths, who will be the highest ranked of the players coming out of high school, out of the guys that are going to be on the team. And playing a solid rotational role his freshman year, leading into a possible breakout season as a sophomore, sets Louisville up for a ton of possible successes. Number one, it takes away the stress of having to replace an entire roster, which, man, that's got to be challenging. And it allows you to prioritize a certain group of players, which Louisville has done a great job in the portal thus far, but it makes it a little bit easier, takes a little bit more stress off of the coaching staff. So it makes recruiting a little bit easier. Number two, it gives your roster a little bit of continuity. You don't have 13 guys learning a brand new system. Like having Rain Smith and James Scott for this upcoming team, it helps. It helps more than you think. We're not talking about it a ton, but it's going to help. And if you have more players for the 2025-26 season that know what Pat Kelsey's wanting as a head coach and what this coaching staff is requesting of each player, then it becomes an even more seamless transition heading into the next season. So for me, I'm 100% okay with this because, number one, you're not relying on Ruuts to be the go-to guy, but he is talented enough to potentially be that guy for the years to come. And that's how you really establish your program is, yes, the portal is incredibly important, but these blue blood programs, these important programs have multiple year guys. UConn has won back-to-back national titles, not only because of the players that they're bringing in the portal, but it's the players they're bringing back. Donovan Clingan, I forget the guy's name. Alex Caravan, sorry. And the names go on. I mean, I didn't watch a great amount of UConn, but understood that Tristan Newton, there you go. And then you bring in some players like Cam Spencer, like Stephon Castle. It's a mixture of newcomers and returning players that helps build that winning formula, assuming that they don't transfer out. That is the main thing, is assuming you can keep your roster together, because you have to basically re-recruit them after every season. But theoretically, bringing Ruuts back would be huge for the next season. So, but Louisville is not done. They have 2 more scholarships, and the main question is Noah Waterman still an option? I believe that he is, and we'll discuss why here momentarily after we tell you about our friends over at Gametime. The new season has been, or the NFL schedule has been released. I used Gametime 3 times this past season to get NFL tickets, and it has been a game changer. It's not only going to be my go-to for NFL tickets, but concert tickets, playoff tickets, you name it, because of the last-minute deals, the all-in prices, the views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Like I mentioned, New Year's Eve last year, Colts Raiders, I got tickets 5 minutes before the game started. It was the cheapest across any platform, and I knew exactly what I was getting into with the view from my seat. You can go download the app, which is great. There's an option called Customize Your Spot, and it'll allow you to basically explain what you are looking for, and it will offer seat options. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And then there were 2. The Cardinals officially have 2 scholarships remaining for the season next year for the men's basketball team, after adding Kason Pryor and Khani Rooths. Another player that has been discussed a ton over the past couple of days. There was a segment discussing him just a couple days ago. That is BYU transfer Noah Waterman. With the addition, the unexpected, I might add, for the fan base, addition of Kason Pryor. And now Khani Rooths joining. It has many wondering, is Noah Waterman still an option? Yes, he is. At this time, as of 10 o'clock-ish on Wednesday evening, the claim, according to Noah Waterman's brother on Discord, according to some other sources out there, Waterman will be making a visit to the Cardinals program on Thursday. Now, I will preface that by saying that it hasn't fully been confirmed, but from the people that I've talked to, they've made it seem like this is as accurate information as it gets. So take everything with a grain of salt, but it looks promising. And it would make sense because Trilly Donovan, say it for what you will, Trilly Donovan has been incredibly accurate this portal season. Wasn't really on par with the Jaden Quaintance prediction. That was like one of 2 that he's missed in terms of 180. But he's been money in the bank for the rest of the offseason. He's been very adamant and leading one to believe that it feels like Noah Waterman entered the portal because of a specific team, and sort of like the Chucky Hepburn recruitment, it feels like Louisville is that team. And if you're one of those people wondering, well, there's only so many minutes to go around. Yes, that's true, but don't forget the Cardinals still have an option open in the front court. Waterman, not a great defender, not a great interior presence, but averaged basically 10 points, 5 rebounds, and 24 minutes of nightly action for BYU in the Big 12. So he did really well against arguably the best defenses in the country from a conference perspective. The fit next to Case and Pryor, it has its concerns, mainly on the defensive end, but offensively, it is a mismatch waiting to happen. So can they coexist in the front court at the same time? Of course they can. I believe they can. I believe they would. So you have a starting spot open. Don't forget Khani Rooths. I would be very, very surprised if he started. I don't think James Scott is going to start. I think that Waterman and Pryor can man the front court when you have athletic small forwards and hybrid forwards like Javon Hadley, Boubacar Traore, even Terrence Edwards Jr., Khani Rooths. And then you have James Scott to protect the rim. From a fit perspective, it makes a ton of sense. Like Noah Waterman is being shown interest from many Power 5 teams for good reason. I mean, he's a very good player. Reminds me a lot of Ben Humrickhouse. Went to Evansville, going to Illinois. Maybe even a better fit than Humrickhouse because he averaged basically 10 and 5 in the Big 12 this past year. Knows how to play in an offense that likes to space things out, can stretch the floor, can attack the rim and create his own shot. And I think he's serviceable enough on defense to make this work. I think it's not a matter of – I was more worried about Khani Rooths than I was Noah Waterman because I think if Waterman comes here, it is to be guaranteed a starting spot, or maybe not guaranteed, but in theory to be given that starting spot when the season rolls around, because Pryor is a solid secondary rim protector, opportunistic rim protector, very good on-ball defender. So I think, yes, Noah Waterman is still an option because there is a starting spot open in the front court. You're going to get a ton of minutes, and you're going to play for a team that on paper, let's call it how it is, 100% should make the NCAA tournament. There is no, first year. No. Not anymore. This team on paper is good enough to make the NCAA tournament. The expectation every single season at Louisville is bare minimum to make the tournament. I said it once, I'll say it again. Ethan Moore, host of Louisville Sports Live, and I have been on the same wavelength on this for as long as I can remember. It's making the tournament. I say that to suggest that Noah Waterman would be coming here with the idea of trying to make a deep tournament run. So if he is indeed going to be on campus, that shows you that there is legitimate interest from both sides, and him entering at the 11th hour would suggest that there probably is a team out there that he has been eyeing down. Would make sense if Louisville is that team, and Louisville would get that much more dynamic with an addition of Noah Waterman. So yes, he is still an option. I don't think the Khani Rooths addition made me worry about that. The Case and Pryor one did, but with the news that he still would be visiting, makes you believe that Louisville probably made Waterman known of this, and they were expecting this. So very exciting times to be a Louisville basketball fan. That's going to wrap up today's episode of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.